Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Alicia Brashe here at Cosmic Gateway, and I am back with one of my most favorite guests of all time, Rebecca Rose, back here to do a Q&A. So thank you for everyone who has submitted your questions. Hopefully we'll be able to get through them as best we can. But welcome, Rebecca. So good to have you back here and to have another conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Alicia. I'm happy to be here always. Yeah.
So I thought before we dive into, I've got like pages of questions here, which is going to take us in and around all sorts of different topics. But I thought I would like hand over the forum to you if there's anything that that you feel that's coming through that's important at this current time as we record this towards the end of May of 2021, obviously, that has been really like prevalent for you or that's been coming through a lot of your sessions that would be
I
helpful.
totally have something. Yeah, gotcha. Well, it's interesting, like this past week, but what where do I go with this? So I read in the Akashic records and among other things. And there's so much past life clearing coming up for the collective now. Like my
Yes.
past life readings have been super charged for like probably the last 6 months. But what I've been receiving recently is all of this clearing around Atlantis and how there's some kind of um I think you have some comment on this. How there's some kind of cloche or overlay of a sort of like this whole Kovacs thing has strengthened the regressed narrative or regressed energies, the regressed blueprint of Atlantis. And so all these people are coming to me, and I had two back-to-back clients yesterday, and there's been more about the Atlantis thing. They're clearing these the dark timeline. So that's been far out, and it's so connected to the inversion of so many different kind of energies on our planet, and it's playing out in such a grand scale now. We're seeing it in such clarity. So, I mean, that's a short blurb, but
Yeah.
look into your Atlantis timeline and see what's there. There might be a gift for you too. It's not just about healing and clearing, but in the resolution of polarity, Atlantis is really, this is a seems to be a really hot topic right now.
I'm so glad you brought that up because a lot of past life clearing is so prevalent right now throughout all my sessions.
Oh God,
Um,
yeah. I thought it was just me. No.
and I did a video in the last week and we hit on that too. We were talking about in one of the roundtables because I had some other practitioners on there, and Joe from Awakening to the Light Within, she was just saying the amount of past life clearing of ancient civilizations is just off the scales right now. So
It is. Wow, I'm glad to have that confirmed because it's just like it's not. I mean, I will be in a session that's not even about a past life. It's not that, but we're going into somebody's wherever they're stuck or blocked or the intractable thing that we have in life that doesn't move. And I'm like, sweetie, this is Atlantis. Let's go into Atlantis.
And it's so funny that you bring up Atlantis because that was a bit of a theme for me in the beginning of this year. And probably one of the very first past life flashbacks I had was Atlantis years ago. And I never kind of like delved deeper into it. But my feeling around, and I used to joke with some of my friends, I used to say, what happened on Atlantis stays on Atlantis. We don't speak about it. That was my feeling around it. But I had to go back into that to do some clearing for myself earlier in the year. And there was a beautiful gift in that. There was a lot of kind of informational scrolls that came back into me through that clearing of that timeline. So I guess I just want to share that because if you're like me and you have an aversion to looking at a particular civilization, there's definitely a gift in there for you. So,
Mhm, mhm,
mm,
mhm.
how fascinating.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, glad I brought that up. There's a lot of charge in that. Yeah, and it's true. There's the past life thing, and well, particularly Atlantis is so. What is the thing? There's so much. There's light in there too. We can. I mean, once we clear this for ourselves, we know this. We're clearing the whole I mean, you guys know that it's clearing the whole collective of all this stuff, and we just get lighter and lighter. Because Atlantis, that Atlantean energy has always felt so heavy to me.
Yeah, same.
Kind of big and ponderous. So, okay, well, yeah.
Well, I'm sure that there's a few people that needed to hear that. So I'm really grateful that you brought that up. And of course, if you are going through, and sometimes it's not even that conscious, actually that, you know, sometimes it's not even conscious and we're going through those clearings, whether that be in our dream space or having feelings and emotions that are out of context in our daily lives. Sometimes that we can be connected to those aspects. So, you know, if you do feel that you need additional support, obviously Rebecca does amazing work, and myself, and I can speak so highly because I was so lucky to have a session with you last week, and it was just incredible, and it was so validating in the stuff that came through. So I, once again, all the details will be in the description box if that's something that calls to you. So
Thanks, Alicia. Yeah.
I think it's important work that we do at this time to enable ourselves to become lighter, to be able to hold more light and clear up the trauma. So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, right on track. So, okay. You want to dive into some questions?
Should we try? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first question I have here is, what is currently occurring on Mars? Is there war still occurring or a cleanup process happening? And how would we feel those impacts on Earth? I realize and understand that you may not know, understand, or have the answers, but I'll just throw them to you and we can bypass any that you don't know.
Oh, so what's going on Mars now? I have not, I need to do a whole reading on that, just, for myself so I can get a clearer picture. I actually will make this easy and say I wouldn't say with any certainty what's happening now. Yeah.
I guess it can be like also a whole heap of different timelines playing out too. So it like, I think it's hard to give a definitive answer to that.
Sandy, Rebecca, how are the timelines playing out? It's happening. The bifurcation of timelines now is really happening. I feel that. I mean, I know a lot of your viewers are going to be going, yeah, totally. Which timeline are you on? And it's all about that co-creative manifestation. Like, what are you visioning and where's your energy? And it feels like, I feel like going back to the past life thing, there's so much of, we're clearing that stuff because it lightens the load. So we can go into the more ascended timeline and the timeline of light. I mean, I hear from so many clients that they're having so much dissonance, like polarity is so, the us and them thing, the maskers and the not, and like people's friendships are falling away over this stuff. Like things are going on. But I have a really strong intuitive sense that despite what it looks like now on surface of Earth, I know I'm not talking about Mars, but of course it affects the whole solar system and beyond. Yeah, things are shifting for the better, even though it can feel in your personal life that you're just walking through a shitstorm all the time.
Well said. This is a follow-on question. Is there things that we can do in our current human form, I think you almost answered this, that would positively impact the war or cleanup that's happening on Mars or other planets in the solar system?
Me too. I feel like I'm giving a reading here. I don't know if I have the energy on Saturday night.
No, I don't mean to go into that, but just in a general.
Yeah. That's a good question too. I always, when I ask these questions for myself, or so much comes in lately about, again, I think I maybe just said this about co-creative. What are you seeing? What you can do is actually, my guides talk about this all the time, seeing the outcome without knowing the steps to get there can really help that? Like, do you see that this is happening? It's not just imaginary, because we are co-creators, and I think it helps take our co-creative energy back hugely when we have a vision of something or a creation we would like to aid, and just have that intention, because of course, we go into power of intention and our divine powers to manifest through that modality. So just put your mind in it, put your consciousness into it, like, I am helping this and I'm sending this all the positivity that I have. I always work with energy rather than, I know somebody might be looking for more of a 3D action they could take. And I certainly think that talking about this stuff to people like who might not even know about it, you got to be, you might, depending on the person you're talking to, you might have a foot in the door to chat about it. And yeah.
No, I think, it always comes back down to trusting, like you said, your intention and your own intuition as to, because what one person may be able to do to positively impact, let's say, clean up Mars timeline or any other planet for that matter, may be different to another person. So, positive intention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you connect that, the positive intention connected to the heart, so all of that is made stronger. That's a huge battery for the co-creative process. So I think I cut you off, please.
No, that's perfect. It just cut out for a second. So I actually just I was going to go into the next question, and as I did, I saw a notification pop up of the same question, just in a different language from somebody else. So I'll just read it out as it's come in. Okay, so the question, I'll just read it out. I had counterparts, so working with divine counterparts in the service, and a term that I recently wrote in an article talking about the different types of counterparts. So this term you may not be familiar with, but I've coined it like galactic counterpart, just to give different distinction between soulmates and earthly and and so I guess that in itself, I had such a amazing response to that article, and it was really helpful. For a lot of people came forward and said thank you to me, because it helped them piece together things that they were going through. So the question is, why do they use, or what is the purpose of using counterparts, divine counterparts in the SSP? From your perspective?
Well, from my perspective, I have no experience with that, so so I don't know if I'm the best one to ask, but feels like it's to do with, the bonding aspect. You will be strengthened by this communion with the counterpart, and I think in some cases a little more malleable to the job at hand. That's a short answer, but it's important to, I can't, I can speak of a counterpart in a different way in a different program, but I like to speak from my own experience, and I don't have a lot with,
I'd love you to talk a little bit more about it, because the other question, which was similar, was typically are our galactic counterparts already on other planets or on ship?
Oh yeah, I can speak to that
for
sure. Yeah, and a memo on remembering people from SSP, man. I feel like all the people faces. I remember some ETs, but I don't really. I have like a terrible recall. I could have had a counterpart out there, maybe, but I don't remember. What I remember is Tyrion from the ship. So I don't know if did we talk about him last time?
We touched on it a little bit, but I'd love you to go into more detail.
Okay. Well, yeah, sure. Tyrion is from Procyon, and He's a Nordic. And when I was, so try and make this really kind of succinct and brief. When I was being taken out to, for example, to Mars, to my stint on Mars, which was rather long, I was also being taken up into a galactic confederation ship. I could just call them the Light Alliance. And I recall Pleiadian, Procyon, and Syrian beings on that ship most clearly, in alliance. That was very interested in what was going on with the galactic slave trade, which is part of why, in my own terms, I would say I kind of volunteered for that mission to do what I did so that we could get more information. But getting to the point of the story, Tira, my mate, was on that ship, and I was taken at the same time. Like, part of my soul was being taken up into the Light Alliance ship at the same time I was being abducted into, the whole milab experience and becoming a weaponized asset for, Team Dark, Mars Defense Force, and so forth and so on, and clone. So Tieran's been really an aid in helping me heal from all of this, just getting reacquainted with him. And oftentimes I feel like I meet him as my galactic self. It hasn't been an easy, I haven't known about him forever. In fact, when he came in, I felt he was very safe and familiar, and I liked him, but I couldn't I could have a counterpart and not know it. And maybe wouldn't want to know, because all of my wiring around relation has been really messed up. But through him, I've been able to, connecting with the whole crew again from my more higher aspect, not from like a damaged child self, and I wasn't a damaged kid on that ship, really. I was my galactic higher self. So it's really, if you try and think about that with your linear conceptual 3D mind, it's problematic. But if you use sort of a different, you got to turn yourself into multidimensional thought stream and quantum here. It's very intelligible to me. I hope I've articulated it somewhat, but it's so timeless. It's like, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful with him. I feel like that continues beyond this embodiment, this life in this particular sack of flesh. It gives me a great, I feel like I have less fear in this life. We walk around all our lives fearing death. But if you finally, understand that this is, well, you guys know that. You people listening know this. Our soul and our being and our
I think
sovereign, and we're forever. I feel like we're just forever. So that's what I feel with Tyrion. So
yeah,
we can call it good there.
That's beautiful. And I think it's often beautiful to have that reminder too, that, if we are going through drama and chaos in this experience right now, to go into that wider perspective of our eternal soul, and that we are sovereign, and that can give a lot of peace to the heart and mind in those extreme moments of testing.
Yes.
Initiations, however they
100%. Yeah. Well, it's the only reason, well, okay, that and the Light Alliance crew and how they've helped me, along with other benevolence, to survive this. But that great perspective of the journey of the soul, which is all about what we do in the Akashic records, has helped me go back away from Earth, be your galactic self, looking to our planet like it's a sphere in a sort of the medium distance, not too close, but you can still see it. And you'll have a much greater perspective. Like, oh, it's the polarity theater playing out. And, it doesn't mean I don't get into my, especially early on when a lot of dark, scary, and sometimes that still comes up and it's painful. And I've had terrible problems with, resolving anger with my father because he sold me into all of this to begin with. I still get into that, but then I can if I have some work with that, eventually I can pull back out. And thank God I'm still, God and Goddess, that I'm still a seer and an intuitive now, because if I didn't have that multidimensional perspective, I don't think I'd be so well.
Yeah. It's like, or I don't want to put words into your mouth, but the way that I see it is that your gifts really, truly have been the overriding catalyst for your healing and perspective and understanding, even though they were used in, dark programs, but they also, work in both sides. And it's as it comes together. I'm not articulating this properly, but because it's a feeling, but it's like that is your inner self that has been probably the biggest healing component in your journey. Would you say that?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Thank you for reflecting that. Yeah.
I was just kind of like seeing it from, two sides, and then um okay, so the next question that is, what happens as someone's contract has come to an end in the SSP, sorry, what starts to happen in the human earth aspect?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I have a sense that it depends on the person too, and the life story of the person. Um, I don't have a sense myself of when when my contract, like, was there a moment or a day, and when did my contract end? But you start getting a hold of yourself, and it might look like really messy at first. Um, like I said, I like to speak from experience, and I don't know exactly as far as, what exactly happens. I think it depends on your personal blueprint and where you are in your journey. I think it can be it's going to be difficult for you. I mean, it has been difficult. You might notice your life also getting itself together more and becoming a little more stabilized. Um, yeah. Yeah, I'm curious. I would love to be having a two-way conversation. I'm curious what this person
Yeah,
has.
I was
Yeah.
like throw in a couple of other um or sort of reframe that in the sense of like when the awareness or consciousness starts to kick in about being involved in some of these programs, what is that
Oh, I see.
the beginning of that healing process like? And just because
Mhm.
I've looked into, and please like pull me up on this, because this was just a feeling that I had listening to yourself and other whistleblowers. But it seems to be like an accident or like a bump in the head or some sort of catalyst point that then starts to retrieve memory. Am I correct in? Yeah.
Can be. It was. I remember. I had bits and pieces of the early, really dark ritual abuse stuff in my mother's side of the family from early. But as far as, yeah, that's a good point. I had in 2012, I was hit on my bike by a car and had a concussion, and things started moving around after that. I had really bad, really awful panic attack, and PTSD really stirred up that. And I knew that it wasn't from being hit by a car.
Oh,
Um,
it's got chills when you said that.
but at the time, I didn't know. It was kind of making me crazy because I felt like I'm so dysregulated here. I can barely function. So what's going on? Um, and I think that's what got me on the spiritual journey. I think it's likely to kind of, okay, it's really going to mess with your mind when it first starts coming in. I mean, from the people I work with around this, I mean, there's so much fear and blockage that we have about even remembering much of anything, that it can be really terrifying if we get too much information at once. Like I've always said, I wouldn't want a full, like if somebody handed me a CD and said, here's everything that happened to you, I don't think I would want it all at once.
Mm-mm.
So yeah. Um,
Too much, too
that's a great point.
overwhelming. It has to be digested in small, tangible chunks.
Mhm. Yeah, the bump on the head thing is a thing, and also yeah, like just synchronicities that happen in your life. Like so many people write to me after I do some the interviews, or I go into more detail on my YouTube channel, which is a small channel, but they say, wow, I just had chills, and I was like, oh my God, I cried the whole time. And you really, if you listen to somebody else at the right time, I think that can also, if notice your visceral response. I mean, I know I've listened to things in the past just randomly, like, why am I even listening to this now? And I started shaking. I had to go lay down.
Yeah,
Like, okay, there's something going on. There's something happening. Yeah.
I think that's a
Yeah.
really
And
good
it's so hard to find support. It's so hard to find, like, where do you go? I see a lot of people who are terribly isolated because there's no, I mean, I have one very important person in my life who has supported me for the last few years with this. And without that, it's really hard without a stabilizer and somebody to hear you out who doesn't say,
point.
oh, there. I think you've just, maybe you've got too much stress in your life, or you're watching too many movies.
Right, yeah. I
Mm.
I can't reiterate the importance to have someone who can completely hold space and not have any judgment and not have any input into the unpacking of it. Um, in my own journey, I can relate to a lot of things that you've said from a different experience, but similar in the overwhelming, breakdown of. And I've always said the only reason I got through those harsher times was because I had one main person that would come around once a day, and I would just share everything that I was going through, and he didn't necessarily understand, but he had a bit of context and he would just listen, and that is invaluable in
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It makes me feel really grateful that I've been supported somehow to get where I am now. I mean, maybe I've said before, I never thought I mean, I was kind of a wreck. I was a wreck for a long time. I wasn't always this person. But if you're out there and you're wondering, if you have a couple memories and you kind of want to know, but you really don't want to know, I really understand that. But I urge you to find the support you need, both for your nervous system and your whole, um, your whole being, to friendship and some kind of, yeah, like you said, Alicia, that person who can, or people who can hold space for you, so that you can go into it, and start feeling resourced to look at it. Because I say that for me because this has changed my life. People always say, wow, I see you on each new interview and you look, like I look, whatever it may be, um, whatever, like
radiant.
fill in the blank. I look better,
Yeah,
right? Like it's like, yeah. So it's shifted, and I feel like way more empowered. Like I was living under there's just shackles and chains, and like all of this, working through so many screens to kind of get through my day. And that's been liberated. So that's a banging the drum for you guys to find the support you need, however that comes, and to, yeah, really support to go into whatever's going on, even though I know that can be really hard. And a lot of people seem to fear it because what will happen to my life? And I get where some of these questions might be coming from. It's like, my whole world might fall apart. And yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if you've been on the brink of not knowing if this is like to believe this stuff at all, and I understand that place too. I remember years ago I heard somebody it might have been Randy Kramer, and I'm not sure, and I was like, that guy's effing crazy. And I'm like, oh my God, turn me right on my head, right? Like, it can change. You have to, because this reality starts, there's so much cognitive dissonance. This ordinary 3D conventional reality, where do you even file that? I mean, I know your viewers know all about this, because you don't have to go to SSP to experience that. If if you're working with the quantum realm, maybe you've had an ET visitation or something. I mean, you don't really have to go off world to find yourself moving through that category
Mm.
of cognitive dissonance and the surreal nature of the common narrative that we're given about how the world works. So,
Beautifully said. Yeah.
yeah.
And two things that have come up in what you were just talking about. Once again, reiterating, if you haven't gone to Rebecca's YouTube channel and watched some of those videos, I highly recommend it. If you want to watch as best she can convey her whole journey through the best linear process that you can. Um, I certainly went and watched that, and I found it just, I couldn't take my eyes off it. I was so engrossed in it. So the links will be in the description box, and jump over
Oh,
there.
thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I find it's really empowering, because I think that a lot of times through information and storytelling, that is where people can start to go, oh, hang on a second. I can identify it, or it may not be a thought, but a feeling in the body, or a knowing, and
Yeah.
that can begin the process. At least I know in my work and in my journey through children and newer children, that has been, like you, I've had so many people contact me saying, I'm going through what you're going through and the things that you shared, and
Yeah.
it's just validating, I think, for when you go through some of these experiences that don't have a context in a 3D capacity. So
Mhm.
the other thing that comes up is, what sort of support is out there, is there, besides obviously going to yourself? I think do you still hold support groups?
I have a women's group. Maybe that'll grow into a co-ed group, but right now there's a weekly women's group for experiencers that I run. So you can always contact me on my website if you're interested in that. Yeah, there are support groups out there. It is, I would say, I mean, I've said this before already in our time together, that it can be tough to find people. And I mean, the people in my group are always saying, "Oh, this is a lifetime," because I don't have anybody to talk to. And
Yeah.
when that happens, and that's probably the majority of folks listening who can relate to this stuff, or like if you've been an experiencer, the majority of us have been very lonely. Um, it's terrible, and the matrix has designed it so we have, the whole narrative of disclosure has been like, called so many things, but certainly not true. um, like we have no support, we just look like kooks. I mean, I get it. I mean, I don't mind that anymore if people don't believe this stuff. I'm not here to necessarily change minds, but I know that what I'm doing is helping other people, and finally I accept that, so I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think where do we go with like mainstream professionals can't hold this. So there's a real hole there as far as providers for physical, mental, psychological, spiritual, whatever it may be, kind of health, emotional health um, related to this. I think that's why we're all kind of stuck, because yeah, I think that's maybe coming around though.
I think it
We
is
might be,
changing. Like, obviously, I
yeah.
know you have your support group. I'm starting to run my support group for women in pregnancy. Um, Misha Johnston, I don't know, because she got taken off Facebook.
Misha has groups, yeah.
She got taken off Facebook a few months ago, so I don't know where she's at with that. I reached out to her last night, but she holds, I think, about 12 different types of support groups, and I've been to some of them throughout the month, for ritual abuse survivors, SSP, hybrid children, she's got all different categories, and
Yeah.
maybe I'll see if I can find her website and put that there. And Tony, are you in contact with
Oh,
Tony? I think
I'm
he
not. Does he have a I'm not sure. I don't know
I'll have
what
to
his
look into it. I should have done that
yeah,
before.
there is. There's more as our community grows and people are waking up, there's more flow and movement. So I feel like it's really improved over even just even just 5 years ago,
Right.
there's way more. It's like, actually, if you look at the trajectory of all of this, I mean, it's lightning speed that it's changing. I mean, how many, there used to be like, you know, how many people, like 3 people talking about this stuff. And now there's like, they're everywhere. They're coming out everywhere. So, you know, the infrastructure to support the healing of all of us is, you know, in our own development, you know, in our own, um, well, I spoke of, you know, my own spiritual journey. It was how I became resource to be able to hold this. And I can't stress that enough too, not to say you need to do it all alone, but it will, of course it helps.
Spiritual practice.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Spiritual practice and all of that. And of course, if you know, your guides are there. If you, I always tell people in my sessions, because this comes in over and over, like, you, if you signed up for this, and mostly you probably did, even though you may not agree with me saying that, I'm sure there's exceptions to that, but you came in also, you wrote into your script, if you like, resources, a team, extra resources to help you
Mm-hmm.
through the situation. And I don't mean to make light of anybody who's really going through a hell realm with this right now, because I mean, or if you're just in a, you wonder if something happened because you're in, I mean, I went through what I call my suicide years, where I was hospitalized and I didn't want to live. I had really bad eating disorders. I was very, and I still have trouble letting people more fully into my life. I was just, I was running really hard and I was a mess. I was a mess for many years. It's hard to believe who I was and who I am now. So I don't want to make light of anybody who's, you know, oh, just get in touch with your guides. You'll be fine. I know it's not that simple, especially if you're in that, if you're in a rock bottom type of place and from day to day wondering if you really want to live in this 3D matrix anymore. It can be hard to see a light there. I get that. I feel for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that too. I definitely feel that. And I think just more and more, I mean, after the last two segments that we did and recorded a few months back, the influx of people that contacted me after that about retrieving their own memories was just incredible. So I think that it's the more we talk about it, the more it's put out there, the more
Yes.
yeah. And that makes my heart sing, because you know, then the healing process can begin, you know, the awareness and then the healing process, and then turn that into something that can be useful in service to others or humanity in some way. So and for
Oh,
people to feel like they're
that
not,
was lovely.
yeah.
Mm.
um I'm just going back now. I might skip over that quick. Oh god, there's a lot of Mars. Mars is a bit topical at the moment.
I can
um
understand that. Yeah.
I'll go into this one. How does Rebecca manage her human self when having being conscious of other aspects of her, whether you know, beyond light ships or um, do you want to talk a little bit about that process of how um, you know, how does your human self experience being aware of other aspects of you and what's happening in it,
Yeah, it's
the
really
quantum realm?
integrated. That's an awesome question because it's so integrated. Like, I don't even know. It's so, yeah. You know, I'm presenting at a hybrid conference next month, and I'm like, when they invited me, I'm like, I don't think I'm not, I don't think I'm that. I think you maybe got the wrong person. I'm like, oh, wait, it's just so, it's so in me. So that's why I'm laughing and kind of making a joke. So it's very easy for me now. Like, it's just, I feel multiple times a day a tall, luminous being inside of me, or, you know, yeah, just, it's so, it's how I see the world. So I kind of shed that robe of 3D and I'm integrated is the word I would say, but it's taken time. So I'm walking in both at all times, and I will share something that's a bit, somebody might relate to this. I'm not sure. It's very, it's a bit weird. but so is all of this, right? From a certain conventional viewpoint. So the left side of my body and the right side of my body, this is relevant to the question. This is the right side is really in 3D. I can feel, the edges of my body more clearly. And this side relates to Earth. This side, on the other hand, is like, I often struggle to really, it's like this side is in the astral often, or looking, like I said, from afar back at Earth, except it's integrated and it doesn't feel like a debility. However, I think that porosity and the ability to be the many, the many selves, or relating with multiple beings and also walking maybe down the road, was
In the
used against me
supermarket.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, the porous nature of my being. I mean, I think I've had, that was my childhood too. And it's, that can be it's a great gift, because I can be the master, if you will, of that now, but before they were the masters of that. And it was used. I mean, I was able to stick my antenna up, and I do this now as a channel, and be able to bring in a wide array of different streams of consciousness, beings, whatever it may be. And they like that capacity. I think a lot of us have that probably, but I know I'm making a long story of being just more integrated now. I hope that's.
I love your long stories. You can talk as long as you like about your experiences. But I think that word integration is so important, because it really is that's the process that we're working towards in constantly being able to operate and function in that awareness and that expanded versions of self. But yeah, operating in the meat suit at the same time, it's a real mastery.
Totally. Thanking whoever asked the question, because it reminds me that's like, it's so normal that I don't think of it being any, like, I haven't really done anything special here, but I'm like, well, I wouldn't have had that how many years ago? Like, oh, no way. So it is a process. Yeah.
Can you maybe talk about the flip side of someone who isn't perhaps integrated, and what that may look like?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, well, I think it would be a lot of, you could be in one or the other, but maybe not in both. Like, you're walking down the street as Susan or John, and you're on your phone and this, that, and the other. And then you could go into meditation and maybe touch in with the other realm. And that's usually how it works. I mean, that's kind of normal, given how we've been operating in this world for a long time. And even if you can do that, that's awesome. But it could be too that you're experiencing, I guess you could call it bleed through, in an unpleasant way from different aspects while you're trying. I know this does happen for people who might not want or not be sure of what exactly is bleeding through, and that can be very problematic. Or, I mean, sometimes I have light language coming out when I prefer maybe that it didn't, or I having a conversation out loud, and I, with a part of myself where I'm, my Zeta father's coming to me in meditation, and I don't really want him there. But it can be very disruptive too. But it does get, the more you are able to just be with what is, and not, just notice what's going on from more of a point of exploration and curiosity. Maybe, as long as you feel safe and you could let a little bit in while you're in 3D and see what that is like, would it be okay? Because we've been so conditioned to separate 6 feet apart. No, that's over here. This would be over here. It's a great thing for the timeline when we become more integrated. So I hope that's somewhat clear or helpful.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. So to further on, I do have some questions around your light language. For you, what form or function does your light language because I know that, you know, there's various people that speak different types of light language, and some is for healing or activation, or it's just their kind of mother tongue. What do you see the purpose of your light language as, or the different functions, or
Oh gosh, that's a big, that's a big one. Are you asking that or somebody else? Um, oh gosh, it's elevation. It's elevation. It's knowledge. It's higher learning. It's streams of consciousness that are so beautiful and so high. It's true light. It's just pure light. I mean, and it's so big. I mean, what is, you know, what I often feel that I am just speaking as my galactic self, and it's extremely integrated. Or I would not make that plural, because it's not just one language, but I often feel like it's me that's got the antenna up and I'm downstepping different frequencies. Sometimes that would be my galactic self, or it could be another stream of consciousness. Just depends on the application. And I have different languages come out at different times, and I don't try and categorize that, or, you know, yeah, it's a tricky, another tricky one to try and kind of smush into a linear languaging. It's so, you know this, you guys know this. It's just so
I appreciate you
multidimensional.
trying. So
Yeah.
this is my question. When did your light language start? Has it always been there, or did it sort of come online at a certain point in time?
It wasn't until I feel like 2015,
Mhm.
2015, 20. Yeah, I think it was the end of, was it the end of 2015? Yeah, it was very spontaneous. Well, yeah, it was in the, you know, I used to meditate late at night and start nodding off, and I'd have a certain language come through, and then I had a very powerful activation one night. And it was, I was woke up doing this, and I think that's really common with the light language. Um, yeah.
Did you hear it
Yeah.
before? This is my own curiosity. Did you hear it before you spoke it? Like, did you hear it coming through before it sort of came through you? Like as a no.
I did, not for me personally, no, and I didn't even know what it was. I was like, what is
Did
this?
you, what was your human response to it?
Well, I was trying to like get it to go away. I didn't, I was like, when it was coming through my meditation, or I would wake up in the night kind of with the first little dribbles of it happening. Later, when it finally activated in me, I was like, that was so powerful, because I had all these visions and there's all these beings around me. And that morning when I woke up and this was going on, it was very clear what it was. But until that point, it was a little bit, um, it was very strange. It is very strange at first. Like, do you feel like, for you, did you have what was your,
I'm so fascinated because up until probably 12 months ago, I used to always say, yeah, I love light language. I can listen to it all day, especially yours. I got another friend of mine, Jen, who infused with light. I think she's very talented in her light language. And I literally can just sit and listen to it all day. Like it just resonates with every fiber of my being.
mhm.
And I always said that speaking light language is not my path. Um, I wish it was, but it's not. And I'm just going to appreciate those that do it. And my gifts are, you know, utilized in other ways. But
Yeah.
since making that bold statement, I hear it. Like when I'm in sessions, I can hear it.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, it's
Uh,
fascinating. Yeah, that's really
and
cool.
I can hear the different dialects. I can almost, I don't like to categorize it, but I know that they're coming from different um, galactic aspects or streams of consciousness.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that it's more for that person. So I channel that energy in when I'm doing a session rather than speaking it. Or maybe I'm just not confident enough yet. Maybe so I don't know. I don't know. That's why I was curious to know. Did you hear it first? Because I could hear it.
Oh, I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. Well, what have you got? I mean, are there more off-world questions, or what else have you
Yeah, I
got there?
do. Yeah. Um okay. At Dulce, were you programmed not to look at the eyes in the eyes of being sorry, let me start that again. At at Dulce where you program not to look at the beings in the eyes and just to keep your head down, avoiding eye contact?
That's an interesting question. I don't recall making eye contact with them. I think I mostly was so broken at that point. I was always head down, just doing my job so I wouldn't get in trouble. And that was the whole plan anyway. But I was interacting directly with beings. Um, I don't, yeah, I wasn't trained to not look at them, but I think there was there was the way I could interact, I think was very strictly regulated. Um, yeah. I remember, yeah, I think I looked away because what is there is so scary. It would have been to a small person, a kid. I don't know, like really hard to look them in the eye. Whatever beings were conscious enough to, that spark of life was in there.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Mm.
did the program create, hopefully I can read this properly. Did the program create something gruesome that would, I think this is in relation to, it's a follow-on question from Dulce. Um, did the program create something gruesome that would go to each of the cages and terrify those inside?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a lot of manipulation of the mind state. Well, take me as an example. I'm working there and I'm manipulated. They want to map every kind of impulse that a being might have, human or otherwise, and then do things with it, learn about it. Where could they put this, or where might they want to take it out? So absolutely. But I mean, I could also relate to that, to the human, I call them just the dark overlords, human and otherwise, that were terrorizing. I mean, we could talk about satanic ritual abuse and what are they doing there, terrorizing victims and taking many times blood or endocrine system secretions. So yeah, I don't know if I could. I'm trying to remember where in Dulce where they. I don't remember so much the creation of terror in particular, although any being trapped in there would be, if they were still conscious and hadn't been altered to the point where they had no real consciousness left, very, I'd say maybe frightened, but that's maybe putting a whole human overlay on it. I do remember, this is, I wrote in my personal notes that I don't think I would ever forgive myself for this, of like one of my jobs over time there, I do recall that was interacting with a being so that I could almost like befriending it, but then stealing information from it, getting it into a certain state through my interactions. And they needed a child to do this, a child's sweetness or vibration. I remember them, it's like creating maybe a pair bond with the being, right? Intentionally, and then learning what kind of chemistry is going on inside the being, taking a snapshot of it, whether it be in their biology or their genetic material or whatever it might be, and then you extracting it. So if you wanted to sever the emotional capacity of different beings so they have no sentience as far as interrelating. I spoke about this recently in another interview this week because it seems so related to the whole separation COVID, excuse me, I'm not supposed to say that, thing. Yeah, that sever relations, and then you can, it's so important for us to relate. So that's a big way to get at our psychology. Very, very painful to know. I mean, I was a child. I get, we're not, we can't blame ourselves forever for that. and we were all manipulated beyond repair at that point. So it's very sad to me. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of the things that I feel like, am I ever gonna, it's very hard for me knowing that I was a bad person to benevolent beings.
I guess my question that comes up in around all that is, you know, the free will, and like, you know, does that get tampered with? Is that interfered with? Like, do you have any, like, is that something that you've sort of delved into in terms of trying to understand that for your own process? I mean, I know on my own journey, I kind of, at one point I was like, I don't even believe in free will. I believe in divine will, and I see that there's a difference. But do you think that there can be a manipulation of free will in those circumstances?
Yeah, that's a good point. I do think there can be that, and they're tricky. They're not working within human the conditions of like.
It's out, or I don't know what comes to
Laws
me.
of
It's outside our even universal
yeah,
law, really.
yeah, outside of universal law. So that's a good point. There's a couple perspectives. There's that one, but there's also, which is a good one. Yeah, I mean, we were manipulated in ways that are completely abominable, and in some ways, you know, yeah, it's beyond words. It's beyond words. All of this, but you know, from a perspective, taking it back out into the perspective of the soul and things we might have chosen, if you do believe in free will, to learn about polarity and the things we play out over lifetimes. In my case, I know that I was learning for the Light Alliance, and this might be a stretch for folks' minds, might be stretching my own to make myself feel better, but it was learning things through, you know, the soul's journey is learning, and I'm not letting anybody off the hook for what happened to me, you know, certainly, but learning about how the inner workings go. I was I've written this in my journals and my notes too. I was more committed than ever in this mission after I came out of Dulce, because it is a hell realm, completely beyond words, beyond human understanding, that place. And I feel like I needed to see it, know it from the inside, to do something related to this mission. It may be simple as being able to speak on it now. Like for real, like this stuff is real. But there's layers to that, you know. What was I curious about as a soul to learn about, or from the perspective of the Light Alliance, the Galactic Confederation, how are these guys operating? How are these guys operating? What are you seeing down there? And they can see some, but it helps if they've got somebody firsthand on the ground. There's many perspectives. So that's just one, you know, if you hold the light prism of something complicated up to the light, what do you know, up to the sun, there's different angles. So there's many to this rather complex piece of our conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate you and sharing that, and appreciate your soul's journey and the mission to bring light into, you know, inconceivable dark places that, you know.
Yeah, I know it's all, I mean, it's so, if I didn't have that, you know, so many other things. I mean, I've got a lot of dark scary in my past, right? But it has helped me rise to the occasion of doing this now. Like, that was the first part of the story. This is the second part of the story. Yeah. There's more to come, and it is good. It is powerful, and it is timeline shifting. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, are we weighing checks and balances a little bit here? I don't know. I mean, this stuff, all these questions I'll be mining for the rest of this embodiment, you know. Some time to, many years hopefully left to consider this. Thank you for these, you know, they're riddles. Will we ever know one definitive answer, a yes, no, black, white answer to these questions? I'm not sure, but I like that we're asking them.
Mm. I, I see things like you described. I often see, I can look at a situation and I can almost try and view it from this rotational perspective of I can see it from, or sometimes it's not so much rotational, but dimensional. You can see it from this perspective, and then,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think there is black and white in anything.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, and I definitely have. I mean, all that said, I can sit here at age 48 and say that, but if we go back into my wounded child cells, they fucked me over and there's no forgiveness for that. There is absolutely no forgiveness and no reason I would have signed up for this. And, total violation of everything there is to human sovereignty
Mm,
and our destiny. Completely. Like I have that perspective, you fuckers.
mm.
Um, So there's my many, many self aspects speaking.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Um, Something that is I don't want to tangent too much because I have three more questions that are going to take us to different places out in the cosmos. But what came into my mind, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but on Montauk, wasn't that a lot of project around tampering with timelines?
Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
What
Definitely.
just came into my mind was like having that experience and now being a master of working timelines in a different capacity as an adult.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm a master, but thank you. But yeah, I think some perspective on that and how multidimensional, like this is way, yeah, as we know, way beyond 3D. Like feeling like there's a part of me that's has not returned from other timelines, as a cyborg clone, is like so far out. Um, oh, so yeah, Montauk was so. I wonder, are they asking if there was
Sorry, that
maybe
was
there
my
was
question. It was just,
okay,
I don't know if it was
okay,
so much a question, but an observation of the work that you
yeah.
did in Montauk
Oh, I see.
in
Okay,
altering
yes, yeah.
timelines, for maybe
Mhm.
some more dark agendas, and how you can maybe retrieve some of that ability and skill set to then be in the state that you are now to do that in a
Mhm.
more light.
Yeah.
Or
Well, it isn't. Yeah, thank you. It isn't belief, like believing in something, even if our conceptual mind can't quite tell you why or how or whatever, explain it in the rational way. Um, if you realize that there's a possibility, say with what we're talking about, the timelines, then your co-creative power has more oomph. Like if you're just like, I don't know if is it real? I mean, should I just look at the news? Maybe that's the timeline. We have to believe it's possible because it is. In anything, maybe you want to, like me, I'm trying to manifest a new place to live far, far, far away from my current location in the world, which is very dense. And I know every day I'm visualizing, this is a simple, really 3D mundane thing, right? I'm visualizing my cabin in the mountains.
yeah,
And I have to believe that I can get there and not that, oh no, real estate's really messed up now. Everything's too high. I can't afford it or XYZ, whatever the thing is. Oh, whatever our blockage is. Oh, I can't get whatever it is. I won't share all that, but uh, yeah, belief. So yeah, just underscoring what you're saying. Like, I know this is real because I lived it. So thank you. You're hired to help me see my journey in many different lights.
I have to stop it there because I'm starting to get visuals now of things. So we'll talk off camera perhaps. But um, okay, so did you ever come across this? Did you ever come across a giant snake called the Ancient One?
Ooh, the ancient one. I'm not sure if this is an SSP thing. This is cool. Well, I have channeled and talked to some really very, very, very old, wise. I want to say, I know as soon as I say reptilian energy, people are going to go, yeah, Draco. it's not reptilian, and their language came through me. And what came through me when I channeled this was like, I could have lived in that stream of calm and goodness for a very long time. I don't know if this is a snake called the Ancient One, but that's what came to mind. Was that the serpent? Was that the question?
That was the question. Yeah. Yeah. I think that was based off I took that question off the last YouTube video, and I think you were talking about Mars and giant spiders. So I don't know if that puts it into any context.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure. I remembered that question
I
was.
don't remember serpents from Mars. I remember spider and other beings, but not the serpent type. Other reptilian beings, yes, that I might have touched on in the last thing. I don't know.
Do you remember what food you ate with native reptilians on Mars?
No, that has been driving me crazy. That's a mundane detail I want, because it was so like I was eating and I was with these people who had the most of anybody out there that I had seen in these programs, the most social structure that most resembled that of humans. It felt like it was in it was something they had created or grown in their underground environment. And I don't remember exactly, maybe I couldn't identify it, but it feels almost kind of green. But I don't want to say for sure.
Taste it as you're talking about it.
Yeah, tasting it. But I mean, it's cool. That's interesting. Somebody remembered that from the video. Like, that's what stuck out. What the heck were you eating? Like, I don't know. I know that it wasn't anything bad. It wasn't anything bad.
Interesting. And was the leader of the tribe an elder female? You know what that's.
Yeah. I don't remember elder female. I remember more masculine energies, men. Yeah. Did I go into this story that deeply on the last? I guess I did. Yeah, it was such a small group, but I don't recall an elder female being the leader. It seemed like there was, I remember less of a single leader and more of a group consensus type of regulation for this community.
Very fascinating. I think a lot of the times too, we've got to like put it in context that our human mind can comprehend when there is no frame of reference. So we've got to.
I know. Everything is human frame of reference. Very, very true. Yeah, it's weird to have. I mean, I know I had such a bad ending there, but at the same time, it was like, I mean, everything being relative, it was some of my warmest and coziest memories from there. Yeah.
So you touched on this before about the other clones still being out there potentially, and I've heard other people talk about this. Do you at any point get flashes or have awarenesses of those other aspects that are out there potentially still on mission?
Yeah.
Or is it just a overall feeling?
Oh, there's both. To be very honest, there's both. Oh, well, yeah, there's blips and fragments, and did I talk about the timeline war when I was on Mars? Like, our commanders had introduced these future super soldier cyborgs to us to see what would happen. And they were trying to pull us into a very AI future, which is where they came from. Did I talk about that?
You touched on it, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I don't remember what I said a few months ago on the show.
Don't remember what happened yesterday.
Yeah, I have felt right. I have felt like there's still a piece of me out there that's very curious about that timeline. And I almost feel like out there, I want to say by choice, to help bring light to this timeline. It's interesting because when I have these moments, it's like I'm looking from kind of afar, and it feels like this, almost like a floating city that is, it feels kind of, it feels Japanese, and I wonder if this was a Japanese creation, timeline creation, I'm not sure. Like these kind of artful white buildings or structures, and a lot of white sort of plastic metal shiny, except it's very eerie. It's very eerie because nothing is, it's not really alive. And there's a, that, that eeriness is the darkness of lack of sentience. And I feel like there is, and I may learn more on this. It's a bit, because it's a bit disturbing, right? If there's a piece of me wandering. I also know though that our beings as multidimensional as we are, this could be just a past thing. We could have different theories on this. If there's no time, I can jump back into many places. It doesn't mean they're happening now, but it's just that knowing that there's, you know, if we look at my trajectory here, I'm really interested from a certain perspective on learning and having a lot of experiences so I can learn. And I think, yeah, noticing as an observer what is happening out there without being sucked into it. So I know that doesn't probably make too much sense, but there's something I'm not quite articulating that's going on there that doesn't feel like I'm not in a war. But there's a part of radiating benevolence or light or something into it, maybe from a higher perspective. Again, very multidimensional. So did we freeze for a minute?
Yeah, we
Oh,
did. We're back.
we got a little blip. Um,
Yeah, I was feeling into that as you were talking, and the sense that I got is it's meant, it's purposeful in that way. It's meant to be that way for.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's, you know, other people have said, well, just call yourself back. You're out of there now. But I've just because you've gotten to know my perspective from the view of the personal perspective on my personality within these programs. But wait, I can't. I'm learning something cool out here.
Yeah,
You know. I
I'm
mean,
glad.
and I have, you know, I have a bit of a, you know, not everybody would have a sense of humor around this. And I think just because it might be one of my coping mechanisms, or how with the big picture, big lens, I see things with less of a like
Yeah,
messed up, freaked out awareness. You know, we don't really want a part of ourselves walking into other timelines. It's not really the best idea, but you know, if you got a mission, you're kind of familiar with how that all works. It
yeah.
might be okay.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that's something that's been really prevalent for me of late. I've gone through these phases as far back as I can remember, where I use the term, I feel tapped out. I don't feel like I'm here. My physical body's here, but
Yeah.
the main essence of me is not here. And it's not, I've learned over the years, I, I don't want to say I don't have control over it, but it's not to be tampered with, in the sense that there's a reason for that. And whatever there's another aspect of me, my consciousness is, this is how I've understood it. My consciousness is off on some sort of mission, and that is far more important than what I'm doing here right now. So I sort of have to wait through it
Yeah.
until I come back online, and then I'll wake up, and then I'll feel more integrated. But there is, yeah, is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that you also experience?
Oh gosh. Um, Less now. I don't, and you know, maybe happily so, because it's really tiring. I talk to a lot of clients who are doing stuff out there at night. I'm like, you know, I'm not really envious of that. I think yeah, mine shows up a little differently. Yeah, it's not. I totally get what you're saying, though. Um, Not that I'm aware of now. Yeah, that's happening to me. Although, I mean, there's other experiences, but they're not. I'm not like um, fighting a war necessarily, or it can be many things. I just don't. I'm laboring the answer here, but my stuff is a little different, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to wrap it up with this last question. I know we've jumped, sorry for everyone. We've kind of jumped around here, there, and everywhere, but
Oh, it's totally fine. It's totally fine.
um, have you traced your soul's origins and the importance of tracing soul origins?
Mm. That's a big one, hey?
Just, just finish up on
I
it.
like it. I like it. I like it. Oh, yeah. I don't have like somebody, with a 3D perspective, we might say, well, what, is there a planet where a star system or something where you come from? But to me, I'm often taken into this place where it's going into the creation of the soul, and it feels like this beautiful, and I've experienced this viscerally at times in meditation. The best word I would have is like a cosmic womb, and like I can feel the birthplace of the impulse of creation, creative impulse itself that was my beginning. It's very powerful. But I don't, it's kind of like this beyond word thing. I think putting that into a linear where are you from would be to make it smaller than it is from my perspective. Um, yeah. It's so, I mean, to be able to journey in this way has been so impactful for my own path. Like some of that is astral travel, and some of it is, I don't quite have the words for what it is. It can be also very shamanic traveling. Um, so I hope that's been useful.
Yeah.
That's my tracing the path of the soul. Gosh, that's a great question. Yeah, these big ones.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts?
Um, it's kind of been highlighted recently in terms of, and thanks to the support of you through that, I had, a couple of sessions back to back, and it all was in relation to what you described. And I feel like I kind of get the sense, for me, I can only speak for me personally, or there's a new sort of technique that I've been working with that it's really quite amazing. It's connecting with aspects of different soul origins from different planetary systems, so through different incarnations, but still simultaneously, and trying to rewire through the DNA and recode to bring more of those aspects online, integrated into the human body.
Yeah.
My yeah. And so that's been really joyful in doing those sessions. I really enjoyed it. It sort of came on spontaneously, and all of a sudden I was like, wow, something new has just come through. But my take on it is that I think that many of us, even though we may have more of an orientation to one particular star system or group, I think that a lot of us have had many different experiences, and it's our orient may be just one that we spent more time there. So we identify more to, say Syrian or Palladian or Arcturian or, and it may just be because, and I think it's just the capacity to be able to work with those different frequencies and those different aspects in our purpose here. And I think when we become more aware of that, then we can, embody more of that and bring greater gifts online potentially. But it's so unique, you know, you can't just like, that's a really blanket. Each person's going to have a different
Yeah.
soul
Mhm.
journey and different abilities and things like that.
Yeah, well, I love that you brought up the DNA and the how that, yeah, how that relates to the opening of our I mean, is it soul? I struggle with words sometimes. In
Me too.
human, you know, linear, like, okay, so, but the opening to our full breadth and sovereignty and our full humanity, which
Mm,
is so cosmic and unlimited. And
mm,
all that's it's written in, you know, universal mathematics, creation math inside our DNA. So beautiful.
mm,
It
mm.
certainly relates to what the soul, oh, what is it? The language is tough for me right now. It's so big. I feel it, but I don't have great words for it. Um, the soul's expression through the DNA and our creator, our creator aspect, the divine goddess and the divine God inside of us expressing through the DNA. Oh, wow. I mean, we could talk about all of this stuff for a long time. It's lovely.
I know, right? I wanted to close up around that because I think that that's important to bring up, you know, for people to dive into and explore and be curious to, you know, when I guess when the calling is there to. It's certainly for me diving into understanding the origins and the different experiences that I've had as a soul has really helped me on my path here in this lifetime and what I have chosen to do. It puts things into context. Things that perhaps didn't make sense before kind of make a little more sense, you know.
Yeah. Yes, and that's the theme is threaded all through this time, our times together. Don't you feel like the
Yeah.
going back into that? I appreciate that actually. Um,
Yeah, it
yeah.
kind of brings it full circle and under
Mhm.
yeah, better understanding our human experience through understanding our multi-dimensionality and how important it all plays in a role, integral role in the, you know, the shift that we're going through here on this planet right now.
It does, yeah, major. So I'm so glad we touched on that. I know maybe this was was this too multidimensional for anyone. I want hard answers. What the heck were you eating out there? Come on.
Did you use cutlery?
Oh,
Was there plates?
most of the things like, oh, I know. There's chunks where I have lots of memory, and some things are like, I don't know what my shoes look like. I don't, remember. I'm still working on this journey. I'm by no means done. So bear with me.
Do you want to lead us out with maybe a fond memory or something that is, you know, quite vivid that you feel inspired to share?
Hmm. Oh, fond memories. uh, piloting, piloting. Hmm. Not to glamorize my servitude or my slavery, but I always I have many fond memories. I think they leave out a lot of battle and killing that relate to piloting, both on Mars and other places. So those are beautiful memories for me. Piloting over really empty, open places, or even in space, is like, I guess I needed to experience that. I live near an Air Force base, and they're doing these drills with their different, fighter planes coming in. I'm always like, well, I wonder if I could remember. Maybe no. I need to fly it with my mind. I
Yeah.
can't fly it, but I'm kind of like more and more like, yeah. If there's like good memories inside of all this, that's it. That's it. And the oasis within the underground oasis with those reptoids on Mars that I spent time with there.
Mm,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing your openness, your gift, durability, and just bringing greater awareness into these harsher, darker topics that do need to come to light. And I so enjoy my time with you, and I really thank everyone for watching. Once again, all the details will be in the description box if you want to connect with Rebecca, and I do highly recommend to go and check out her YouTube and follow along there. You know, and for those who are watching for the first time, and if none of this makes sense, you might want to go back to the 2-part series that we recorded a few months ago,
Definitely.
to put some text around. So
thank you so much for having me. I always feel like we have good exchanges here, and I felt like we kept it so light. I mean, you guys didn't give me any hard questions.
there were some more, but I was like, I think we just well, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you, everyone. Until next time, you know, stay safe and much blessings.